King Solomon authored multiple books in the Old Testament, ruled over Israel, and is known for his wisdom from the Lord. How did he come to power, and why was he blessed with such notable discernment? Learn about the life, lessons, and legacy of King Solomon. Solomon was the third and final king of the unified nation of Israel, succeeding King Saul and King David. He was the son of David and Bathsheba, the former wife of Uriah the Hittite, whom David had killed to cover his infidelity with Bathsheba while her husband was on the battlefront. Solomon wrote the Song of Solomon, the book of Ecclesiastes, and much of the book of Proverbs. His writing of Ecclesiastes is disputed by some, but Solomon is the only son of David to be king over Israel and Jerusalem, and many of the descriptions of the author fit Solomon well. Solomon ruled for 40 years. King Solomon is still celebrated for his exceptional wisdom. When Solomon rose to the throne, he sought after God, and God allowed him to request whatever he desired. Solomon humbly recognized his inability to rule well and nobly asked God for the wisdom he would need to govern God's people righteously. His wisdom is a central theme in the Bible, highlighted by the famous judgment involving two women who come to King Solomon, both claiming to be the mother of the same baby. They live in the same house, and each gave birth to a son within days of each other. However, one of the infants dies, and both women assert that the living child is hers. The two women present their case before Solomon. Their conflicting claims create a dilemma, and Solomon is faced with the task of discerning the true mother. In a moment of brilliant wisdom, Solomon proposes a solution to determine the genuine mother. He suggests cutting the living baby in two and giving each woman half. The real mother, in her love and compassion, immediately offers to give up her claim to save the child's life. The other woman, without hesitation, agrees to Solomon's proposal. Solomon, perceiving the genuine mother's love and selflessness, intervenes decisively. He declares that the living child should be given to the woman who pleaded for his life, recognizing her as the true mother. The people witness Solomon's divine wisdom and are in awe of his ability to discern the truth in a challenging situation. The story, found in 1 Kings 3 verses 16 to 28, demonstrates Solomon's discernment and practical wisdom. His proposal to divide the child aimed not only to expose the true mother, but also showcased Solomon's deep understanding of human nature and justice. The age at which King Solomon ascended to the throne is not explicitly mentioned. However, it is established that Solomon succeeded his father, King David, as king of Israel. According to 1 Kings 2 verses 10 to 12, David reigned over Israel for 40 years, and Solomon took the throne after his father's death. Consequently, it is estimated that Solomon was relatively young when he became king, likely in his late teens or early 20s. Solomon's youthfulness becomes significant when considering his personal choices, particularly in matters of marriage and alliances with foreign nations. Solomon's lack of seasoned discernment might have influenced his decisions to form alliances through marriages, ultimately leading to spiritual compromise. Unfortunately, Solomon's private life was marked by a departure from God's commands, particularly in the realm of relationships. Despite God's explicit instructions against marrying foreign wives who might lead him astray, Solomon married many foreign women, including Pharaoh's daughter. These marriages were not merely for diplomatic reasons, but were often motivated by political alliances. Solomon accumulated a vast harem, with 700 wives and 300 concubines, a departure from God's design for marriage as outlined in Genesis. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter: Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. They were from nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites, "You must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods." Nevertheless, Solomon held fast to them in love. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. This passage highlights the fact that Solomon's accumulation of many wives, including both those of royal birth and concubines, was contrary to God's command. The Deuteronomic law explicitly warned against intermarriage with foreign nations that worshipped other gods, as it could lead the Israelites away from their devotion to the one true God. In Solomon's case, the influence of his foreign wives indeed led him to worship foreign gods, compromising his devotion to the God of Israel. 1 Kings 11 reveals that Solomon's heart turned away from God, leading to his involvement in idolatry, a grievous sin in the eyes of the Lord. King Solomon's reign was noteworthy not only because of his actions, but his position on the throne, continuing the line of King David in ruling Israel. David was celebrated for his victory over Goliath, and his role in establishing Jerusalem as the capital laid the foundation for a powerful dynasty. David made a covenant with God, expressing his desire to build a house or temple for the Ark of the Covenant. God responded by making a covenant with David, promising that his descendants would rule over Israel perpetually. Solomon's accession to the throne marked the culmination of this lineage, signifying a continuation of the legacy of Israel's greatest kings. King Solomon was well respected in his time, both within his own kingdom and among neighboring nations. His reign, often referred to as the Golden Age of Israel, was marked by prosperity and diplomatic achievements. The Queen of Sheba traveled 1,200 miles to bring him gifts and confirm the stories of his wisdom and dignity. Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. When the Queen of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Solomon and the palace he had built, the food on his table, the seating of his officials, the attending servants in their robes, his cupbearers, and the burnt offerings he made at the temple of the Lord, she was overwhelmed. Overwhelmed by what she saw and heard, the Queen of Sheba expressed her amazement and acknowledged Solomon's wisdom, the prosperity of his kingdom, and the happiness of his people. She presented him with gifts, including gold, spices, and precious stones, before returning to her own land. King Solomon's contributions of wisdom literature to Scripture provide profound insights into various aspects of human existence. The book of Proverbs is a collection of practical wisdom, offering guidance for ethical and prudent living. Solomon imparts timeless principles through concise and memorable sayings, addressing topics such as morality, diligence, and the fear of the Lord. The emphasis on acquiring wisdom and the contrast between wisdom and foolishness are recurring themes, reflecting Solomon's desire to instill virtues in the reader. Ecclesiastes is a reflective and philosophical work that grapples with the existential questions of life. Solomon, often identified as the preacher or teacher in Ecclesiastes, explores the pursuit of meaning and purpose in the face of life's transient nature. The book challenges conventional wisdom and contemplates the futility of human endeavors apart from a meaningful relationship with God. Ecclesiastes invites readers to consider the ephemeral nature of life and find enduring significance in a divine perspective. The Song of Solomon is a poetic celebration of love and intimacy. The book portrays a passionate and romantic dialogue between two lovers, often interpreted allegorically as the love between God and his people or Christ and the Church. Solomon's eloquent descriptions and vivid imagery explore the depth and beauty of human relationships, celebrating the joy and intensity of love. Well, it's a warning to all of us that knowledge is not a safeguard by itself. And so what are the answers to those difficult questions? I think it's written in the Bible to warn us that reading commentaries and listening to videos about the Bible is not itself the final guarantee that we will not at least sin, if not become reprobate. And so we have to guard our hearts, watch our life and doctrine closely, and not assume because we've been put in a position of authority or being given great gifts that necessarily authority and status and gifts equate to the fruit of the Spirit. Perhaps the unanswered questions are intended to cause us to be careful.